American scientists visiting that site in the late 1990s kind of freaked out. And they came back to Washington to say, this has to be taken care of. One of the people who helped them get approval in Washington to take action about this was the guy with the amazing hair who just got confirmed to be our new energy secretary. He, at the time, was an undersecretary in the Department of Energy under Bill Clinton, and he and Bill Clinton and the Energy Department and the Defense Department, and in the Senate, Sam Nunn and Dick Lugar, all of these somewhat low-profile but concerned Americans looked at this situation at what used to be the biggest nuclear testing site in Russia, and they said, we realize this is not in our country, but we got to do something here. We can help. We feel a responsibility to help. We can help, so let's get this stuff locked down. And thus started an American-funded, joint American-Russian-Kazakh secret mission to lock down that site, to lock down all that plutonium, to make it unscavengeable. Not to make everything all right by all of Kazakhstan, or even by this whole big, polluted, terrifying Cold War leftover site, but at least to secure the plutonium, to secure the stuff that was a weapons of mass destruction nightmare. They started that program in the mid-90s, and it worked. It is now over. It was really secret while it was all happening, but now that it's over, the story's finally being told. We've linked today at Maddow blog to this big new report on exactly what happened there. It's called Plutonium Mountain. It makes for absolutely terrifying but fascinating bedroom reading if you want to read about it. But in October 2012, this past October, the Russian scientists and the Kazakh scientists and the American scientists all went out there and had a picnic at the nuclear test site out in Kazakhstan to commemorate the fact that this project was finally done. And they put up this plaque. Look at this little memorial commemorating what they had done. It says, the world has become safer. See that on the left-hand side there? It says it in Kazakh, in Russian, and in English. We are done here. It took 17 years, but they did it. When you look back at the history of the Los Alamos Lab and the Manhattan Project and Robert Oppenheimer and all those guys, that's a story everybody knows. At least everybody who's interested in that stuff knows it. This is the drama of what it took to build the atomic bomb, to build all this stuff. It is a relatively easy story to tell. The drama of learning how to throw this stuff away once we have built it is equally riveting, equally fascinating, but it is a story that is somewhat harder to tell, in part because it's a really sensitive subject. Nobody wants to look like they need help, right? Nobody wants to look like they can't handle something on their own. No country wants to look like it has built itself a problem that it cannot manage to fix without help. But these problems do get fixed. We do clean this stuff up. We specifically do clean this stuff up. Americans do. In terms of nuclear cleanup and locking up loose nukes, we have done it in the former Soviet Union. We have done it in Russia itself. We have done it even in places like freaking Mexico City. We did a show from Mexico City last year showing the United States helping Mexico get its highly enriched uranium taken out of that country so that it wouldn't end up on the black market and turn into a nuclear bomb or a dirty bomb somewhere down the road. We do this kind of work of locking down all this dangerous stuff all over the world. It is an international problem, but it is one that has our name on it. And not because it's our fault, not because we caused this problem, but because we have taken the lead role in fixing it. American exceptionalism? Yes. On this issue, we have shown exceptional world leadership, and it has redounded to our own safety and to the safety of the world. And it is not exactly the same thing with chemical weapons as compared to nuclear weapons, but it is close. Turns out we are particularly great at destroying chemical weapons, in part because we've had so much practice. We had so many chemical weapons that we have destroyed that we've gotten good at it. President Richard Nixon is the one who stopped us making chemical weapons back in 1969. But before he stopped us making them, we developed quite an arsenal. Tens of thousands of tons of VX and sarin and mustard gas. We started finally destroying it all in the 1990s. In places like Johnston Atoll and in Anniston, Alabama, and at the Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland, at the Pine Bluff Arsenal. We are still in the process of destroying our chemical weapons in Pueblo, Colorado, and at a facility at the Bluegrass Army Depot in Richmond, Kentucky. The local press there noted this week that they're handling VX munitions that are so dangerous that, quote, a drop of VX the size of George Washington's eye on a quarter is enough to kill a healthy 180-pound man within seconds. Between that and sarin, at Bluegrass, Kentucky alone, you've got 433 tons of that terrifying stuff stored there in preparation for it being destroyed. There's another 90 tons of blistering mustard gas. Our national arsenal of this stuff was huge. There was a ton of it, but it is now mostly destroyed. It has taken a long time to destroy it, but it is now mostly gone. The only country that had as much as us, even more than us, was the Soviet Union. But the process of getting rid of this stuff, whether it's over there or over here or anywhere else in the world where the stocks have been eliminated, it's a known process. It is knowable and it is known. We have experience with it. It is being done. It is underway. And like with nuclear materials and loose nukes and nuclear contamination, this is very touchy stuff. And people don't necessarily always want these stories told, but it is doable. It's technically feasible. Once it is politically possible, it is technically possible. You just put one foot in front of the other. It's a process. You can get there. And Syria started that process today, sending a letter to the United Nations asking to become the world's latest signatory to the Chemical Weapons Convention. And that starts a timetable. Once they sign, they've got 30 days to declare to the United Nations all of their stocks of chemical weapons. Once they are declared, there's another time frame in which those weapons have to be inspected. Trained chemical weapons inspectors who have done this in all the countries that have gotten rid of their chemical weapons. Trained inspectors will go to the declared sites and essentially do an audit. They compare what they find at those sites to what has been declared. And then this is the really interesting part. Other countries who are members of this convention can then consult their own intelligence about what they think Syria's got. And they can pipe up if they think there are other sites that ought to be inspected that Syria has left off its list. Signing a convention, signing an international compact like this is countries essentially telling each other, we are all in this together. And part of what you are agreeing to when you agree to sign on to that is that the other countries who are signed on to this convention with you, they can ask for challenge inspections. If they think you've got chemical weapons at some site that you haven't owned up to, they can say, I want a challenge inspection at that site. There's never actually been a challenge inspection in the whole history of enforcing this thing on chemical weapons, but there could be one here. We are on new ground here. Can the goal in Syria be reached?
All right, so this show is a review of the reviews, as it were. Been watching politics for 10 years. This is my manifestation of trying to make real the idea of blogosphere.com back in 2004. Yeah, that was me. Didn't do anything with it. Went and joined the law firm. All right, and you may notice that a lot of the reviews, well, it seems to be quite oriented towards MSNBC. Well, there's a reason for that. One, we get to keep alive the Keith Olbermann tradition of paperwork in your camera face. But seriously, more importantly, MSNBC is the only cable news network that I know of and have seen. And I used to watch Fox News quite a bit years ago when blogosphere was in my mind. And I wrote many a treatise on the current issues going on back then. But they are the only network, MSNBC, again, whom has, or that has, Republicans on point. Scarborough country until the Imus debacle. Now he's on in the morning, and that's like, 3 to 6 in the morning here, Pacific time. So I don't get to see him as much. But you got S.A. per se, per se on the cycle, and they have plenty of Republican guests on it. They even used to have Laura Ingraham and Ann Coulter on there. This is MSNBC. That's why we cover them. All right, so they're on every day. They have such great material. My intent is to try to bring these things to you, in case you missed them, for posterity's sake. And so you may be asking, well, the Tai Chi, well, you're not demonstrating martial arts. No, the Tai Chi martial art came long after the Tai Chi. The symbol of the yin and yang, the origin of yin and yang is right here, the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. I wholeheartedly recommend it as reading for anybody of any faith, because it's the only book that's given me peace. And it's not so much a religious or organized religion kind of a book. It's more of a spiritual, philosophical guideline as to how to get along with everyone and everything in the universe. All right, so I've set it up. So at the end of each show, I'm going to try to read a bit of wisdom from the Tao Te Ching, and also quote something from myself that represents the right of center, since she can't talk, Because a lot of times MSNBC does represent the left of center, or just the slightly left of center viewpoint. The only Republican talking points you might get is vis-a-vis the guests. So I'm going to prove that I'm a little bit right of center and present things to you such as it may come up.